Hey guys, it's Mr. Bison, and congratulations, you have just finished your first A-level maths exam. And I know why you're here. You want to know, what did I think of this paper? Now, broadly, I would say I think this is quite similar in standard to 2024 and 2023, which is not surprising because recently Edexcel have been trying to make these papers more accessible, more sort of kind of show that questions and earlier parts to the questions. And they've said this explicitly in a document, which I've linked in the description if you want to find out more about this. But because the papers have been getting easier or maybe more accessible, the grade boundaries have been going up. At this point, I don't think there's much to say about grade boundaries because we really need to see what paper 2 and what paper 3 are like. But I know people always like to speculate about that. We only know the grade boundaries until we're really there on results day. Now, although I said it was similar to 2024, I imagine the pacing may have been challenging for people because this year there were 16 questions, which feels quite unusual. For the last couple of years, there's been 15 questions per paper. Of course, there was a challenging integration substitution question at the end, but the last question is designed to be very challenging. There was the proof question where they were looking at multiples of 5, 1 more, 2 more, 3 more, and 4 more than a multiple of 5. And there was also the question where they asked you to use algebra to find the x-coordinate of Q. Now, if you watch my mistakes not to make, you will know that the using algebra part means you cannot use the calculator for that. So I'm hoping you used your algebraic division and your quadratic formula for this kind of thing. Now, also, there was a question on iteration where they were talking about the maximum speed, and that felt very similar to a question from the 2022 Pure Paper 1. In fact, lots of this paper felt very similar in its structure to 2022 Pure Paper 1, which is quite interesting because I think it was quite similar for that for Core Pure for the further maths exam as well. Now, if you've been in my calculus live stream and my trigonometry live stream, you will actually see lots of those questions. I've gone through lots of 2022 paper, so hopefully that was making you feel quite prepared. So I'm definitely going to look through 2022 Paper 2 to see what kind of structure they've got, but examiners aren't necessarily going to be that predictable, so I wouldn't necessarily count on that. Now, after the exam, I always do a poll on my channel. At the time of recording, there were 1,000 votes. 60% of people said that it went better than expected, 26% of people about as they were expecting it to be, and only 14% saying it was lower than they expected. This is quite similar to the results from 2024, but potentially people have actually found this paper a little bit better so far from the number of votes than they did last year. Now, in terms of the topics that I expect to come up, typically there are not going to be repeat topics from paper 1 to paper 2, so we can have a good idea of expected or predicted topics. This is one of the only times we can actually predict things. Now, I should mention this here. If you are interested in going through a session with me where you will look at these expected or predicted topics in more detail, on Saturday morning from 9:30 to 12:30, I will be doing an in-between Pure Paper 1 and Pure Paper 2 session that takes place on Zoom, or you can buy a recording for this. It costs only £15. And as well as that 3-hour session, there is also an additional video of questions that I go through. And I've really tried to pick questions that are not from past papers of this specification, but that are from other parts of the specification as well. And you'll be pleased to know I have reduced the price on my mechanics and statistics aiming for A-star sessions that took place in the Easter holidays. So they are also now only £15, and they will be great practice and revision for paper 3. So let's talk a little bit more about what these topics are that I think should be coming up. First of all, they haven't had anything on quadratics. I expect that to be something to do with modelling, but of course it doesn't have to be. There has not been proof by contradiction, and every single year there is proof by contradiction, so I will be preparing students for that. And guaranteed there will be binomial expansion somewhere. They have never missed binomial expansion in an exam series. There's going to be more differentiation. Within differentiation, I'm expecting maybe all or some of Newton-Raphson method, differentiation from first principles, and implicit differentiation. I think there's going to be more integration, probably parametric integration, probably not substitution because they've already done that, but I would expect something to be with maybe like integration by parts, maybe even like finding the area under a curve using kind of year 1 type of integration, but definitely going to be some more calculus there. And I've already mentioned it, probably some parametrics. That could be differentiation or integration. There's probably going to be one of those questions where they give you an exponential curve and they want it to become a linear curve or maybe a non-linear to linear. That is really popular. It seems to happen almost every year. We've got log equations, functions, composite, inverse, that kind of stuff. Modulus graphs. There's going to be more sequences in series, but we've already had arithmetic, so I'm anticipating either geometric or recurrence or sigma notation for that kind of stuff. There hasn't been a small angle approximation. Could be an early question, could be embedded in a later question. I'm definitely expecting a harmonic identity, probably with some kind of modeling aspect to that as well. We know how much they love modeling questions. And then a few ones that I'm not so sure about, but could easily be there. Something on indices, index laws, maybe an early question. Trapezium rule hasn't been assessed. That could pop up too. And maybe vectors. Most years there's only one vectors question, but sometimes there are two vectors questions. So something you might want to make sure that you are prepared for this. So I've already mentioned this, but upcoming events, on the weekend, there will be my in-between session and all of my other sessions for A-level maths, which are taking place in the Easter holidays. You can get the recordings of those immediately, get started with some really targeted revision using questions that are not from the past of this specification, international papers, things that feel fresh. £15, it's a no-brainer for revision at this time of year. Last thing I want to say is, or penultimate thing I want to say, if you had a bad paper, do not get yourself down about this. Feel bad about it for today, and then tomorrow you wake up and it is a brand new day. If this was sports and you were playing a football match, a basketball match, and you're not doing very well at the beginning, you would pick yourself up and be like, we can still get some more points. We can still get another game, another goal. This is going to work out. If you don't play sports, maybe you're like music or acting, when you're on stage, so you forget a line or something, you just need to pick yourself up and you can still do a really good performance. So pick yourself up tomorrow morning and you'll be feeling much better, okay? Last thing I was going to say is you've probably noticed this Bison t-shirt. A student who I met via YouTube, she sent me an image of this saying, this is what I wore to the exam hall. So obviously I had to order myself one as well. This is not something I'm getting commissioned for, but I just thought I'd wear it because I just think it's amazing. These like mad pictures of me from all different thumbnails and stuff like that. So there is Bison Maths merch. It's not official and I'm not getting any commission from it, but I'll probably put a link in the description if you're so mad as to order one of these as a good luck charm. Anyway, guys, good luck for the next exam. Good luck for any other subjects that you've got exams for as well. And I hope to see you in a live stream or some other kind of video or aiming for a star session recording sometime soon. Bye, guys.